A mass murder-suicide of 900 people in Jamestown, Guyana, in 1978 forever changed the meaning of the word cult. The emergence of a hippie sex cult and another smaller mass suicide about the same time further defined the word as implying all the worst possible attributes for any new religious movement. Whereas the dictionary definition of the word had previously been used for any system of beliefs, in the minds of the public it became the worst possible label that could be placed on any religious group. Even before the dictionary had caught up with what was happening socially, the legal system was starting to recognize that this was the highest form of slander possible when applied to a group that was not guilty of such things. It became increasingly difficult for so-called anti-cult groups to label anyone as a cult without leaving themselves open to a lawsuit for slander. And yet so-called anti-cult websites still listed hundreds of groups as possible cults, or as having cult-like tendencies. Reputable social workers who deal with new religious movements as part of respected social work almost universally refuse to use the word. They either refer to such groups as new religious movements or as high-demand groups, depending on which term seems more relevant. A similar evolution took place with the term brainwashing, which was widely assumed to be scientifically proven and clearly practiced by various foreign governments as a way of coercing prisoners of war to make treasonous declarations against their own governments. It took several decades for it to become general knowledge in academic circles that the accusations of brainwashing themselves were little more than clever propaganda. While many experiments had been made in the military in particular, in the area of thought manipulation, it gradually developed that the people who were most highly trained in this area of mind control were the so-called cult busters, or anti-cult professionals themselves. These days, it's difficult to find any organization anywhere that will come straight out and identify a particular group either as being a cult or as practicing brainwashing, because of the legal ramifications if they do. Nevertheless, the most unscrupulous hate-mongers invariably apply those two words to any group which they wish to attack and discredit. The general public cringes in fear at mere mention of the word, without any understanding of what it means or little desire for evidence. Amongst cult busters, the terms are used to describe any group for which a relative is prepared to pay cult busters thousands of dollars to supposedly deprogram someone. Ironically, my experience has been that the most lasting alienation in families has always come whenever a cult buster has been hired, because their tactics are relatively useless in anything but the short term. One US cult buster is famous for having told the FBI during the siege in Waco, Texas in 1993, "If you've seen one cult, you've seen them all." To this day, he insists that he does not need to know anything about the beliefs of an organization in order to arrive at his own conclusion that they are a cult. And the reason is that he has devised signs of a cult which can be applied to virtually any religious movement. His basic formula is this: when you have a small group, close group, with a charismatic leader, bad things happen. All of this needs to be taken into consideration if and when you hear the words cult or brainwashing used in reference to a voice in the desert or anyone else associated with him. To learn more about what A Voice in the Desert actually teaches, please click on the link at the end of this video. Thank you for listening.